Hello everybody, welcome back or welcome to my channel. Today we are reading an Aizawa ex-listener. I named it, but I forgot what I named it. An Aizawa ex-listener by him, by Destiny_X17 on Wattpad. My parents kind of abandoned me at home, so since they're not here, might as well record. I have full range. So anyways, without further ado, let's get into it. Of all the people that you could have had a crush on, it had to be him, didn't it? He always looked like he poured the devil's hot sauce in his eyes instead of eye drops with how bloodshot they were. That had to do with his patrolling though. He spends all day teaching and grading, and then at night he goes on patrol. His eyesight is shit due to the effects of his quirk, plus on top of that, he doesn't sleep and tries to see during the day. Such an odd combination, and that odd combination is what you fell in love with. It started simple, really. You became a TA, the first TA at UA that UA has ever had, and you were appointed to the strictest first-year teacher who is known for expelling students on the first day and has never been late, not once in his life. It was intimidating, and you had a lot of expectations to meet all in one day. You came home that day with a stack of papers and frazzled. After that, he warmed up a bit with you, especially after the USJ attack when you distracted the Nomu enough to keep him from breaking his arm by slicing through its neck with the blades of your tail. You forgot that it couldn't regenerate, and you ended up doing a forced faceplant into the concrete. At the end of the whole fiasco, you and Aizawa had matching scars under the eye. Whenever you were nervous or anxious about something, you would rub the scar and that side of your face with the tip of your tail, which is exactly what you were doing at the moment. Stop that. You jumped and looked up to see Aizawa boring down at you. You sheepishly moved your tail, looking away, but looking back over when he sat down next to you. You tried focusing back on the stack of papers in front of you, but unfortunately, you were hyper aware of everything, especially as someone right next to you. Out of your peripheral vision, you studied his profile since his scarf wasn't hiding no parts of his face. You looked at his hair first, noticing he had it held back in a low ponytail, and his eyes were furrowed, focusing on the paper in front of you, putting red marks here and there as he commented and made corrections. You traced down, noticing his stubble growing back, having to resist the urge to rub it, however. Your tail had a mind of its own. You watched it in a mix of embarrassment and horror as you gently rubbed his scar, going down to his stubble, tracing it. You both were frozen, neither one of you knowing how to react. You wanted to pull your tail away profusely, but maybe it was the fact that he hadn't stopped the ministrations that you were enjoying this side of him. It was very soft, and he doesn't show a soft side to anyone except Numeri and Hizashi. You ignored the pang of jealousy and focused on what you were doing, now finding the nerve to look at him. You don't know where this bravery came from, but you knew you looked like a tomato as he stared right back at you. You felt a little better, though, when you saw the light pink hue on his cheeks. You forced your tail to move from his face and opted to let it rest on his lap, but you refused to break eye contact. He glanced down briefly to your tail before looking back at you, and without your consent, your breath hitched as he brought his hand to your face, tucking a piece of hair behind your ear. He let his hand linger there, lightly brushing your cheek with his thumb, giving you a lopsided grin that was so easygoing that it brought a grin to your face. The moment was broken when he removed his hand, placing it on your tail and turning back to his work. You took a deep breath, turning back to your pile, basking in the comfortable silence and loving the soft strokes of his fingers on your tail. as he grated it with his other hand. It was an hour or two of this before you decided to call it a night. I think I'm done for now. I'll just finish the rest of this at home. You stood up and your tail still in his lap as you stretched. You were aware of him looking at you, but you pretended not to notice. You turned to him with a slight grin. I think you should head home too, Aizawa. He looked at you before looking at the clock. I guess you're right. He got up, finally letting go of your tail, and you missed the contact already, and apparently your tail betrayed you and wrapped itself around his leg. You flushed when he looked at you, a teasing smirk on his face. I wasn't going anywhere. You flushed, forcibly removing your tail and pouting at him, earning yourself a chuckle, and you'll be damned to admit it, that sound made you shudder pleasantly. You both packed up your paperwork silently, both heading for the door and walking towards the exit of the building. Are you going to your apartment, or you're staying here at the dorms? You looked at him waiting for a response, and he looked at you before averting his eyes and hiding a bit under his scarf. You saw some pink, and it made the butterflies in your stomach much more noticeable. He mumbled something, but you didn't quite hear it. What did you say, Aizawa? I'm going to my apartment. It's not too far from here. He's been quite talkative this evening, and honestly, you were pleasantly surprised. I'm going home too. There's no need to stay in the dorms tonight, since you won't be there. This part was left unspoken, risking a glance at him, but quickly averting your eyes when he caught you. You continued to walk in silence and noticed how close you two were walking, bumping shoulders and hands grazing. You enjoyed this contact and didn't want to risk him pulling away, so you kept your eyes in front, enjoying the silent company. You lived at the same apartment complex as him, but you lived a floor above him. As you both walked up the stairs, you realized how reluctant you were to leaving his company, and you thought of something quickly, blurting it out as you both got to his floor. Would you like to eat something? I have some leftover pork cutlet bowls from yesterday. That's if you want to. You were so damn nervous and your face was red. You felt it, but you risked looking at him as you both just stared at each other. When he stood quiet, you were about to forget it all. Sure. You let a breath out and gave him a light smile, even though your nerves were frazzled and you thought you were going to die, as the feeling of hope blossomed in your chest. You continued up to your apartment, thinking to yourself, don't get ahead of yourself now. Don't ruin your friendship for these feelings that you have. You're not 100% sure are reciprocated. You made it to your apartment, opening the door and letting him come in. It's not the first time he's been over to your apartment, but this night you really didn't want him to go. You wanted just a little more time with him. You already know where the bathroom is. You can use it if you want. He just looked at you, tilting his head before going to the bathroom. You went to your room to change and wash up a bit in your private bathroom. You came out and saw him on your couch, and surprisingly, he took off his scarf and jacket, and he was sitting there in a black t-shirt. You didn't try to stare, but you stared because you thoroughly loved what you saw. You saw what you think is a peak of a tattoo coming from the sleeve, but he moved his arm, and that's when you looked up and saw he was smirking at you with a knowing look. You couldn't stop the blush even if you wanted to. You like what you see, don't you? You couldn't even deny it, so all you managed was a sheepish smile, and when your tail started wagging, your blush turned even redder as his smirk turned into a grin. To save yourself, you turned and went straight to the kitchen preparing the pork cutlet bowls. You were in the middle of heating up both of them when you felt a pair of arms snake around your waist. You froze up, not believing it, despite your tail wrapping around a pair of familiar legs. Aizawa? You shuddered. as he trailed light kisses along your exposed shoulder, going up to your neck, stopping at your ear. "Call me Shota." You couldn't stop the shudder this time, your breath hitching as he hugged you tighter to him, and now you were flushed against him. This was too much to process at one time, and you weren't going to stop it. No way in hell. "Might as well call me Ryan." You moved your head to look at him and wasn't ready for the look he was giving you. It was full of adoration, and he had a gentle smile on his face. This was the most unguarded you've seen him, and you were going to treasure this look for the rest of your life. "Ryan, He trailed his lips back down to the contour of your neck and shoulder, nibbling on it lightly. Your breath hitched, tilting your neck in response so he can have more access. One hand left your waist, and he placed it on your hip, massaging lightly. "You have no idea how long I've been wanting to do this." He trailed his lips back up to your ear, licking the shell lightly, chuckling when your eyes fluttered a bit at the sensation. He pulled away a bit, turning you around to face him. "The feeling's mutual." You looked at him, glancing down at his lips. He caught the look and didn't hesitate to press his lips against yours. His lips were surprisingly soft, and you tasted chapstick, which was pleasantly surprising. He tilted his head one way to get a better angle, and you tilted yours the other way. You don't know when it turned into a makeout session, but it did, and with your tail, you turned off the stove so the pork cutlet doesn't burn. He pulled away from the kiss, swollen lips, pupils blown out, and you're pretty sure you looked the same.